Welcome, my name is Mr. Sunarine, and today we're going to be looking at how can I solve fraction story problems. We're going to begin this lesson by doing this small exercise. Click on the cell to complete the table and fill in the blanks. What I've done for you is providing a model example of a division sentence over here and a multiplication sentence over here. And just to be clear, let's see what it says. 9 divided by 3 equals 3. And over here, 9 times 1/3. So notice how dividing by 3 and multiplying by 1/3 will still give us the same answer. So this is what we want you to practice working on. Notice how the same answer is 3 and 3. Dividing by 3 is the same thing as multiplying by 1/3. And when you're multiplying over here, make sure you're setting it up correctly. Here's a nice model of how to do that. When you write 9, make sure you turn it into a fraction, 9 over 1, times 1/3. When you do this and multiplying fractions, the numerator times the numerator goes on the top, the denominator times the denominator goes on the bottom. So here we have 9 times 1 equals 9, and 1 times 3 equals 3. Here we can also simplify it because 9 over 3, we can turn it into 3, and therefore we see that we have the same answer. So I encourage you to pause the video, work through the problems, and then on the next slide, we will be able to compare our answers. I'm going to move on. Here are your sample responses, so hopefully this can help you and model. So take a moment, pause, check your work, and compare your answers and see how you did. Now we're going to get into looking at some story problems and working through those problems. In this problem, the question says, a baseball team played 32 games and lost 8. Katie was the catcher in 5/8 of the winning game and 1/4 of the losing games. What fraction of the games did the team win? So I encourage you to pause the video, try to work through the problem, and see what you get as your answer. We're going to provide step-by-step explanations on the next slide. So I'm going to resume. So when we look at the problem, here's the problem again. And here I'm going to look at the problem and guide you through the different steps. The baseball team played 32 games and lost 8. Katie was the catcher in 5/8 of the winning games and 1/4 of the losing games. What fraction of the games did the team win? So in understanding this problem, the highlighted portion is what we need to look at in order to answer the question. The rest of the other information is important but not relevant in order to answer the question. So the first step is, how many games did the baseball team win? So if we look at the question, we see that the baseball team played 32 games and lost 8. So that tells us a couple of information. We know that there was 32 total games, but then we know that they lost 8, so that means the rest of the games they won. So here we do 32 minus 8, giving us 24. The next step is, how many games did the baseball team play? So we know that, 32 games. And here we have our fraction. And that leads us to step 3, make a fraction. So we know that the number of wins are 24, and the total is 32. That is our answer. However, in math, we want to reduce our fraction to its simplest form. So here, you reduce the fraction. What is the largest number that goes into 24 and 32? Here's a sample. You find the greatest common factor, the GCF. And here we looked at all the numbers, and 8 is the largest number. Take that 8 and divide the top number and the bottom number, resulting in 3/4. and therefore 3/4 is the fraction of the games the team won. We're going to look at another problem, so please pause the video if you need support in this or to check your work. But we're going to move on to the next part of the problem. Here, the next problem tells us it's the same problem before. A baseball team played 32 games and lost 8. Katie was the catcher in 5/8 of the winning game and 1/4 of the losing game. Next, we're going to look at in how many games did Katie play catcher. So pause the video, try to work through the problem, and we're going to resume and we're going to show you how to work through the problem if you're having trouble with it. So here we go. In looking at the problem, there's some information that's provided. We know that here Katie was the catcher in 5/8 of the winning game and 1/4 of the losing game, right? So here we know from the previous problem that the baseball team won 24 games and lost 8 games. We're going to use these two numbers and we're going to use the winning games, the fraction for the winning games, with the total number of games won, and the losing games, the fraction here, with the total number of games lost. So here in the step 1, we're going to in order to find how many games won when Katie was a catcher, we're going to multiply 24 and 5/8. When we do this, we multiply across. 24 times 5 gives us 120. 1 times 8 gives us 8. And then when we reduce it, we get 15. We do the same thing for step 2 with the games lost. We multiply 8 times 1/4. We multiply across. 8 times 1 gives us 8. 1 times 4 gives us 4. 8 divided by 4 gives us 2. We get 15 and 2 for our answers. And then our last step is to add both answers together. 15 and 2 gives us 17. Katie played catcher for 17 games. We're going to move on to one last problem, just for additional practice. And here it is. In a classroom, 1/6 of the students were wearing blue shirts and 2/3 were wearing white shirts. There are 36 students in the class. How many students are wearing a shirt other than blue or white? So I encourage you to pause the video and we're going to work through the problem and look at strategies on how to solve it. Here, I want you to get in the habit of annotating or highlighting parts of the problem that is very helpful in order to answer the question. So we know that 1/6 of the students are wearing blue shirts and 2/3 are wearing white shirts. That's going to be important for this problem. We're also going to look at there are 36 students in total. Now the first step is find out how many students are wearing blue shirts. So we know that there's 36 students in total and 1/6 of them were wearing blue shirts. We multiply across. 36 times 1 is 36. 1 times 6 is 6. 36 divided by 6 is 6. Step 2, we find out how many students are wearing white shirts. And we set up the same fraction. 36 is our total number of students, and 2/3 are wearing white shirts. We multiply across, and we find that 72, 36 times 2 is 72. 1 times 3 is 3. 72 divided by 3 is 24. The last step is add the number of blue and white shirts and subtract from the total, which will give us 6. 6 students are wearing a shirt other than blue or white. We're going to move on. In the summarized portion, we want you to work through how can I solve fraction sorry problems. Take a chance, look through the steps, and we're going to provide some guidance on how to do so. Here are some steps. Annotate, highlight, underline key information, i.e. total, numbers, and fractions are going to be important, and here's an example. Determine which numbers you need to multiply, the total and fraction, and here are some examples. And lastly, simplify and reduce your answer if possible. And here is an example from a previous problem. Hope this was helpful. Have a great day.